think it just starts right away. Hey, 1% Nation, I'm Jake Voorhees, and you are watching episode 44 of the 1% Engineer Show. This is the second installation of a live episode that I'm doing, and as you can see, we have our featured guest here, Hamza Waheed, who is the only other member of 1% Engineer. He's been writing blog articles as the Biomedical Mondays author for now. I think you have 6 or 7 episodes, and today on the show, we're going to be doing a live mentorship session. Hamza has 11 or 12 questions for me. It's a lot about college engineering stuff and career type stuff, so we're going to jump right into that. Hamza, why don't you let 1% Nation know what you're up to in your young engineering career, how you aspire to be a biomedical engineer, and just say hello to 1% Nation.
Hey, 1% Nation. So as you know, my name's Hamza. I currently go to Wake Technical Community College. I plan to transfer to NC State or UNC Chapel Hill because it's a joint program. I'm trying to do biomedical engineering, and I'm trying to stand out by going to various networking events, trying to improve some engineering skills. Like, for example, I got a hackathon to attend next Friday at Duke University, and then I'm looking at attending the other hackathons like Duke, Hack and C. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I recently just found out about all those hackathon events and how they have student ambassadors and brand ambassadors all around the nation. Maybe that's another thing you can become, is an ambassador for those events and everything. So that's pretty good, Hamza. I think what you're doing right now, just getting involved with as many things as possible, meeting as many people as possible, I think that's super strong. It's exactly what you should be doing. So I guess we'll just jump right into it.
The best part about
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead. You have to wait for, because it's usually like a second or two.
I was going to say the best part about hackathon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the best part about hackathons is that the companies like Facebook and Google, they actually go there rather than to career fairs. Totally. I'm not saying they don't go there as well, but they're especially looking at these events.
Totally, yeah.
That's where the talent's at.
That's right, 100%. They know. Sweet, man. So let's just jump right into your questions list. I think I have them up. I know I don't have them up anymore, but I think you do. I'm going to bring them up. But go ahead. If you can remember what was question number 1, let's just jump right into this. So actually, I have the list here. This way we don't waste any more time for 1% Nation. And for those of you who are watching, we've got a couple people live here. Just to let you know, if you answer questions, if you ask questions, I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have a question, go ahead and drop it in, particularly if it is related to the questions that Hamza has. So don't be shy. Go ahead and say hi and link up your questions. So let's jump right into it, Hamza. What was question number 1 that you had for me? How do you network with others, right? You have a career fair coming up. Just things about that. That was question number 1, right? Hopefully we're not having any stream problems here. Getting some lag. You there?
Yeah, how do you network with others?
Right, so I think this is particularly connected to your hackathon fair or career fair type stuff. So I guess let's specifically talk about that. I would think that is of particular interest to you, right? How to actually network really well during a career fair, during this job fair, during these hackathon events.
Yeah.
Sweet. So go ahead. I think this lag is a problem.
Right. So the first question, kind of, because now I can see you fine. But it was just lagging for like a whole minute there.
I think it's your sister watching Netflix. I really do.
I wish I could do something about it.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
So, it's all good. So let's just jump right into this question number 1. In terms of preparing for job fairs or your hackathon event, The biggest thing to do in advance is to know all the companies that you're interested in talking to before that event. And not only that, you should of course know what those companies do, but there's two things that I think you can do ahead of time to really have an advantage. First of all, choose like the top 5, the top 10 companies that you want to talk to at these events, and I think we'll keep it at a career fair conversation right now, because not everyone is going to be attending hackathons, but a lot of this stuff will cross apply over into the hackathon advice. But get your list of top 5, top 10 companies, research them, know the gist of what they do or whatever, otherwise you wouldn't be interested in them. But here's what you really should be doing. Go to their blogs, go to their websites, go to their social media, and know about the recent wins, the recent updates, any new projects, any new things that they're talking about, because this is relevant information. The people who are at the career fairs, who are at the hackathons, they're going to know all about that. They're going to be excited about that. They may have even been a part of the team who has acquired this new project or got this new win. And then you're going to be able to impress them, because when you walk up to the booth, when you walk up to these people, you're going to say, oh, hey, blah, 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 I'm Hamza. And part of your elevator pitch is going to be, what's up, Psychedelic Insomnia? Part of your elevator pitch is going to be like, oh, hey, I saw that you guys are doing this now, right? And they're going to be like, oh, wow, this guy really does know about our company. And it really is a nice icebreaker. A lot of people, they worry about what their elevator pitch is, and I think just as long as this person knows that you're paying attention to this company, that is super duper valuable for an icebreaker. And here's the second one. This one's a little bit more complicated, but I think, Hamza, you're a smart guy, you're capable of doing this, but what companies do, let's say for a career fair or whatever, I guess you're going to a hackathon, but you should, because I don't think, are you going to a career fair and a hackathon?
The hackathon's first, then comes the career fair.
Great. Okay.
I'm going to both.
And Duke is hosting it, right?
Duke's hosting the hackathon. NC State's hosting the career fair.
Cool. Okay. Career fair. Good. This is important for NC State. Okay. So what companies are going to be doing? For example, whatever companies you're going to be interested in talking to. I don't know if they're exclusively biomedical, but the companies that you're interested in looking at, they're going to be on the list. So again, write those down, and you're going to be able to check those out. Yeah,
I have it on an Excel sheet.
Awesome. And then what you should do is go to LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, you should make one. You can improve it over time. But LinkedIn has this really cool search feature where you can filter out all these different layers of attributes. For example, you can say, okay, well, I know this company is going to be at the event. And then the next thing is, you want to search professionals who work for that company, and then you can say, I want to only see professionals who work at this company and who are NC State graduates, because what these companies are going to be doing, they're going to send professionals to the career fair who graduated from NC State, because these people will be able to have a little bit more connection to NC State students, and these are the people who they're going to send. So you can almost, using these filtering features, you can almost kind of guess exactly the employees who are going to be there. And you can, I would encourage this, have like a long Word document where you print off the almost like you screenshot the LinkedIn profiles of those people so you can remember their names. And if you walk up, and if it's one of the 2 or 3 people that you researched and you actually know who they are, you see what I'm getting at already, you can be like, oh, I saw that you work for this company. They're going to be so impressed that you already knew their name, that you were researching the company, you knew about the blog info, and you're going to be the one person, the only person on the day who can walk up to that booth, and because you did your LinkedIn research and you made a little Google document, you knew those people's names or that one person's name. That is going to be so impressive, and they're going to be so much more charismatic when they give over that business card. And then when you follow up 2 days later, they're just going to have already had this really good snowballing momentum of a relationship with you, much more likely to accept that coffee invite, that lunch invite. So those are the 2 biggest little hacks, and I call them hacks because nobody does this stuff. They research the companies, but they don't research the wins, and they definitely don't do this LinkedIn thing. So let me know what you think about that.
I actually think that's a pretty clever piece of thing. I did not know you can do that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. The reason why I found out about this is from this 10-hour MBA online course, and I've kind of like repurposed this advice to be targeted for students like you, Hamza, but what this professor was suggesting is that if you find yourself, it was for career people, if you find yourself living in another city that's far away from home, you don't have too many contacts, what you should do is you use that city instead of a company. You use that city as the first filter, and then you target people who say went to NC State if you're an NC State graduate. And then when you message them on LinkedIn, you can say, hey, we're both in this random place, like, you know, Dallas, Texas, or Boston, Massachusetts, and I see that you went to NC State, I went to NC State too. I'd love to have you for coffee. So it's kind of like repurposing that for a job fair. Besides that, I think we've talked a little bit about this stuff, Hamza, but I'll really quickly go over my other tips for career fair. If you don't have a suit yet, I think it's a good opportunity to go buy one. Or... Yeah,
I actually have one. Mind if I show it to you?
Perfect. I think we'll wait till we're offline, just because I don't want to pause the information flow here, because we got a couple people live. But you know, I'm curious to know what color it is and other, like, you know, what shirt. What is it?
Black.
It's black.
It's black with some stripes in it. I have a white dress shirt.
Good. Do you have? Like
and I just have to figure out a darker pants because that's what goes with white.
Yeah, totally. That's good. And then I would say get like a skinny black tie. That'll be good too. Well, that'll work out well. But besides that, you know, definitely wear a suit or wear that jacket. It seems like you have a jacket situation. But the reason for that is that so many Gen Y and young millennials, they believe that they don't have to wear a suit. They don't want to dress up today. They see Mark Zuckerberg on stage with the hoodie and they think that's fine. Right. But the reality is it's not fine. You know, you do want to present yourself professionally and that sort of thing.
That's Mark Zuckerberg. You can't compare yourself with Mark Zuckerberg. Really.
That's right, 100%. The other advice, I don't know if you have the ability to invite a friend along with you, but going to networking events, going to job fairs with a friend is really good, because what you can do is you can kind of like bounce and go in between for each other. Like, for example, when you're already in conversation with somebody, your friend can walk right up and then you can introduce that professional to your friend, and you can just kind of chain reaction through the crowd. And it also gives you like a little, you know, situation to just, you know, collect yourselves and regroup. But it's really cool because you can introduce, like, for example, if one person's already in the convo, they can introduce you, and it just is this really nice like 1-2 situation. Besides that, you know, get as many business cards as possible. Also, if you can meet other young professionals there, that's not a bad situation. But the other final thing I'm going to mention about career fairs is with that stack of business cards, make sure that you email those people like 2 or 3 days later and thank them and follow up. And after a little while, not right away, but that's when you should ask them to coffee, ask them to lunch or something like that. But definitely send that thank you email right away. Thanks for the opportunity. Really enjoyed talking to you, that sort of thing. So I don't think a lot of people do that. They just take the business cards, put them in their desk drawer, and then they email that person 6 months later, and it's too late. They forgot about you.
Yeah. Is it even worthwhile going to the bigger companies like Facebook and Google? Because everybody's going to be there. Everybody wants to work for those companies.
Right. I think, honestly, if you do the LinkedIn hack and you can see what Google or Facebook employees went to NC State, because they may have a micro office there. But if you can be that one person who walks up and you know the name of one of the people, it might be worth it. You know, you might be able to stand out. You might be able to highlight yourself in the crowd. But it depends. I mean, if you really want a biomedical engineering career, you know, I don't think Facebook is really in that game.
Right. I just meant that as an example for the popular companies people want to work for.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't be intimidated. If anybody wants to work for Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, you should never be intimidated. You should believe that you can capitalize on those opportunities and you can achieve that stuff. I definitely wouldn't be afraid of that. You know, confidence is everything. Mindset is everything. So if you believe that you can never get a job at Facebook, that's going to come off in your tone. That's going to come off in your posture. You know, you're going to seem nervous. So you just have to be confident. And I would always encourage you to shoot for the stars. You know, talk to SpaceX, talk to Tesla, whatever. So let's keep this rolling here. Go ahead. Let me know whatever you got.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to go to the career fair now, is because once you start going junior year, it's kind of almost too late, really.
That's right. Yeah, you should be looking for a job your entire road. And even for you, you're planning on doing the community college thing, which I highly encourage everyone to do for a year or two, I guess 2 full years, and then transfer to NC State or UNC Chapel Hill. And so you have, you're doing this right. You're not even really in that 4-year road yet, but you started, your engineering journey, and it's never too early to get rolling. So I highly, highly believe you're doing the right thing. So let's keep moving here into question number 2, which you say, who should I be networking with? Is it professors, managers, staff engineers, or some other positions within a company? Really not everyone has a say in a company. That's a good point. What you're talking about here are gatekeepers and decision makers, but you don't always have to have a relationship with a manager, with a boss, with a gatekeeper, because what can happen is, say, a staff engineer who you may have a good relationship with, or let's use myself as an example. I have a relationship with a transportation engineer, and I just got a job through that company, and just his mention of my name to his boss, that can be enough to change the tide for you, and you go from just a cold individual out there in the world to now a warm introduction, and that's really all it takes. So I wouldn't exclude anyone from the networking schema. I think the 2 target people that you should be networking with, though, are professors. Even like, I wouldn't put it off your radar, even though you're not at NC State yet. I would be emailing these engineering professors and building relationships with them and asking to come in to their office hours and do little informational interviews and figuring out, some career guidance stuff, or what major may be for you. Maybe you can get excited about something that's connected to biomedical engineering, or maybe they will affirm your interest in biomedical engineering. So that's the top thing for you right now is professors. Also because you're at the beginning of your engineering road, so things like university research and using their Rolodex, using their stack of business cards, that's what a Rolodex really is, to get connected to internships, to get connected to other engineering clubs, to get connected to other professors. Professors are some of the most well-connected individuals out there. So for you as a student who's not about to go right into the professional world, that's really your number 1. And then secondly is the same types of people who are going to be at a career fair or a hackathon running the booths. Get those business cards, follow up 2-3 days later, build that relationship, ask them questions, and then ask for that, again, informational interview. Because if you can actually have this person talk face-to-face with you for 30-45 minutes, whether that be a coffee or a lunch or just coming into their office and making it convenient for them, then that's how you're going to highlight yourself in the crowd. You're not afraid to, or most people are too afraid beyond an email, or people are too afraid to even call today. So if you're asking for a face-to-face meeting, for a face-to-face informational interview, then again you're going to be so much more advantaged. They're going to know, like, and trust you by the time you're prepared, or by the time it is your time to actually ask for an internship or some sort of opportunity. So there's a
face on your application.
That's right, exactly. They can connect the human to this application, so that's exactly right. So let me know if you have any things to add on that, or any questions within that.
No, I think it's pretty crystal clear. So pretty much just know someone in the company and get them to say, hey, get someone who has a decision, stay in the company, to say, hey, I know this guy, I think he's a good fit, I suggest you hire this person.
100%. That's exactly right. And I want to say what's up, give a shout out to Marion Gack. I don't know how to, Marion Gack in the chat. He's a buddy of mine who is in the Philadelphia area, who's just transferred from India, and he's starting up his engineering, I guess either 3rd or 4th year at Drexel, so that's awesome. But what's up, man? He wanted me to elaborate on this LinkedIn hack a little bit more, but really what that is, really quickly, I was telling Hamza, but you can go into LinkedIn and you can use the search filters. There's like 3, 4, 5 layers of search filters. And Mary, what you can do is you can say, hey, I want to look at people who work in the Philadelphia area, because that's where you are, and who graduated from Drexel, because that's the school you go to. And when you email them, you're going to have 2 connections to them, and they're that much more likely to give you the time of day if you want to come in for an interview, or ask them for coffee, or as you walk into a career fair or networking event, if you're doing pre-research, you can say, hey, I know you went to Drexel, I know you graduated from Drexel, I go to Drexel, right? So that's how you can use LinkedIn, the LinkedIn search features, to leverage them for more success. So, Hamza, back to you. Let's get on to your third question here, which you have, what can I do to build your resume? So I guess let me ask you first, where are you with your resume situation? What's it looking like now? And then we can go from there.
Yeah, I kind of haven't started. It's kind of a bad move. But honestly, the way I think I'm going, I don't have work experience because I can't work here. I'm on an H-4 visa. They don't really allow you to work here, and immigration is kind of a pain.
Right.
And I haven't really been to hackathons or anything like that, and I've just started out. I don't expect my resume to be that good.
Right. Well, I would say that really quickly before this event, you should whip up a resume, because that moment when they say, hey, do you have a resume to give me? And you don't have one, that communicates very, very bad things about you. What that does communicate is that, first of all, you're unprepared and you don't have a resume. You really do need to have a resume if you're going to a career fair. And secondly, they're going to assume that you don't have anything to add. But for example, you can add that you're a student right now and that you're pursuing an education. You can add that you are a part of the team of 1% Engineer and you've been a blog writer for months. You can add that. That looks really good for you. If you have any other type of volunteer experience, if you have any types of other event experience, even just going to an event, you can say event goer, hackathon, or anything at all. You really should find a few things to fill out there. And even if all you have is education, I started my curriculum this year at whatever community college, and that you're a blog writer for 1% Nation, and then you can put like skills. I'm sure you can say that, oh, I do this or do that, I know certain softwares, or you can do interests. I don't know if you've ever won any awards like in high school or whatever, but you can put awards. You can put any sort, like if you were in a high school engineering or a high school math program, like we had an engineering pathway, but I would still encourage you to give yourself the benefit of the doubt and fill one out. And even if it's pretty slim and it doesn't have a ton of stuff on there, you should have a resume, particularly if you're going to events like this, because you're going to get that question, oh, do you have a resume for us, after you impress them with the conversation. So
now, what if you run out of resumes to hand out?
I wouldn't worry about that. That's a good situation. Realistically, you're really only going to have, like, if you can have over 10 healthy conversations where they end in a resume exchange, that's a really good situation for you. So I would just have a little professional folder, print out 20, and don't worry about that too much. Print out 20, and if you hand out 20 resumes, you're in a much better situation than you could ordinarily be in, because you can really only have probably 5 really strong, engaging, value-filled conversations on that day, unless the event is like 4 hours long. Then you can expect to have like over 10, but if you make the list of companies that you want to target, there's probably 10 or fewer that are doing biomedical engineering, because you don't really want to spread yourself so thin that you're talking to construction engineering companies and things that you know. You know what I'm saying? So just print out like 20 or 25, and if you have stuff left over, whatever, paper is cheap. So what's up, guys? Right. Go ahead. Keep go with your questions.
Let's see here. How can I build a portfolio of my work or things that I'm working on?
Great, yeah, portfolio question. Well, in order to have a great portfolio, because this is a really good question. A lot of people should be making a portfolio or having like a project sheet. Really, you just got to keep doing what you're doing. You got to get involved with as much stuff as possible. You can have the blog writer position for 1% Engineer on there, but really it's the more the stuff that you get involved with, the more stuff that you do. Like if you volunteer for a professor, or say you start your own engineering blog, as you're doing informational interviews, or say you're building projects. I don't know what that would be for biomedical engineering. So you're like tinkering and making stuff. You can add that you've been making projects, or you worked on this thing for a month or two. But really it's just a direct connection as to the amount of stuff that you're involved with. Again, volunteering, doing research, maybe shadowing some people at a company, going to these hackathons. You can put that as like a hackathon goer. You can become probably an ambassador for these hackathons, because I know that these big events are looking for ambassadors to spread the word. So really it's a function of the amount of stuff that you get involved with and do, which is why I always encourage 1% Nation, just getting involved with more and more and more and more stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming like I can take pictures of me at a hackathon, at a career fair or whatever, or me like building a 3D printer, something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can take whatever pictures, for your own LinkedIn, for your own Facebook. I would encourage you to snap that photo with the tie on and the jacket, and use that as your LinkedIn profile picture, your Facebook profile picture in the future. You did have a question about like validating that you're involved with all this stuff. I wouldn't really worry about that too much, because companies are going to be doing background checks, and they can kind of tell if people aren't being authentic. So don't worry about like proving that you go to events like this, because really what they'll do is they'll just ask you one question about the event, and if you stumble through the question, they can assume that you weren't there. But if you actually have a real answer, they know that that it was real, right? So good question. Really quickly, we got a question in chat here. Good question, Mary. He asks, how do I find out if there's a career fair coming up in your area? Great question. Well, what you want to start
Google.
with?
That's how I found out.
Yeah, first of all, you want to start with the internet. But also, Mary, you're going to have a career services page at your university. I'm pretty sure you're going to Drexel. I'm almost positive. But I would sign up for the daily newsletters that Drexel has, because they're going to make announcements. I'm signed up for the University of Delaware, my alma mater, that newsletter. So I'm constantly looking at that. Also, your engineering department will probably have a newsletter, and there's also a career services department at Drexel, and you want to make sure that you're building relationships with them or going to their page and you're looking at whatever Drexel is hosting, and then just Google like Philadelphia Engineering or Philadelphia Tech Career Fairs, for example. Miri, I know that there is a big hackathon event that happens in Philadelphia. I'm actually considering going to that. So check that out for sure. But really just use Google University and use your career fair and use your university resources.
Another thing I wanted to add is that what I noticed is at colleges, even in my high school, nobody looks at the bulletin board. Look at the bulletin board.
Good advice, man. Okay, we got a good question here. I'm going to ask you to weigh on this, Hamza, because I'm not exactly sure how you would apply this to biomedical engineering. But we have, I think this is it's an Arabic name. It's just all in symbols. But I don't think it's Farsi. I think it's Arabic. The question is, can you talk about final year projects and give some tips and other stuff and examples? And I think we can just kind of cater that right to your biomedical engineering situation and talk over some projects that you might be able to get involved with and add them to your portfolio, add them to your resume. But let's think of some examples right now of like, for example, say you had a final year project for one of your classes that you had to apply it to biomedical engineering. You could probably do some sort of 3D printing project. You could probably reach out to these biomedical companies, for example, the ones that you've been writing about in the blog, and see if they're in the, I think you're in the Raleigh area, or you're in Charlotte, Raleigh area, and see if you can come in and do little interviews, do little tours, volunteer to help out on some projects, and you can build a portfolio this way. I don't really know. Can you think of any other project examples besides like the prosthetic stuff? And
right, yeah, that stuff is pretty expensive, and not everyone has the money for that. Remember on one of my blog posts, I was talking about the fold scope and the centrifuge thing.
Yeah,
I saw the kits online that cost like $8 to make.
Great.
And that invention, like obviously that's being sold at a profit, but that invention costs less than $1 to make.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's definitely something that like, have you bought that yet? And you're gonna build it?
No, I'm thinking about buying it, and apparently you can attach it onto your phone as well.
That's really cool. Yeah, any sort of cost-effective thing that you can buy off the internet and you can build stuff at home, and
like you can build a 3D printer. Yeah. I mean, it's somewhat more costly, but it's still doable.
Yeah, anything like that where you can again, buy something online and build it at home and build experience for yourself, and just be ambitious and get more involved with whatever, tinker at home and put that in a portfolio, put that on your resume that you've been building these things. And it even is a good little hack, a good little addition to what I always encourage engineering students to do is start that blog, put out that engineering stuff on your social media, become a personal brand as an engineering student, and it makes an even better excuse to keep buying projects and keep building things. And then on your resume, in your portfolio, you can say that you've created all this content about the projects that you've done. And then if that person is interested in you, who you network with, they can go and they can look at your blog. They can look at all the stuff that you've been involved with. So it's a cool way to, again, stand out, be proud of something that you've built, and document your engineering journey. So this is great. So I don't have any more questions in chat. We got a couple of people watching here live. I think it's an interesting time, especially for American college students, because this is a football Saturday. A lot of people are out, but you know, I think it's a good opportunity to have a bunch of people jump on and look at this later. Saturday is definitely like my biggest YouTube day. So let's keep getting rolling here. Keep rolling here. Hamza, your question number 5, you have, how do I construct a resume and cover letter? Well, great question, especially for where you are just walking into your first semester of college this year. We kind of went over how to build a resume already. You start with your education, talk about the curriculum that you're in, talk about the curriculum that you plan to pursue, because the resume always has a goal. Like, for example, your resume, the first line, the goal is something like gain more experience in the biomedical engineering field, or gain more experience with hackathon companies or whatever. And then when you're building your resume, you always want to include stuff that you're involved with. For example, you're a blog writer with me, so you can say that you're a part of the team here at the 1% Engineer Society. So again, thank you so much for doing that. You're the only other content contributor that we have, so super, super thankful that you are that involved, Hamza. You're awesome. And then if you're volunteering with whatever companies, if you're building projects of your own, if you're having some sort of portfolio like your own blog or your own personal brand Instagram, you can talk about that. Just like some of these engineers out there, like Astronaut Abby is one of the best examples. She has 100,000 people on her Instagram, 130,000 people, or it's 130 Instagram, 100,000 on Facebook, and she can talk about these social media projects as a part of her being a personal brand, and you can add it to your portfolio. Hey, Mew, what's up? What's up, Absurdus? What's up, guys?
What's the difference between a resume and a cover letter?
Good questions. Really happy you guys are in the chat. We got a couple of Hamza. I was mentioning to you that I streamed for 2 hours and 12 minutes the other night, and a couple of these guys are in the chat right now. Mew and Absurdus, you guys are awesome. Thanks again for coming out and supporting 1% Nation and this live stream. And for those of you just joining, because we're getting a couple of new ads here, what's going on right now? We got Hamza Wahid here. Hamza is a future biomedical engineer in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and he is actually a blog writer for 1% Nation. He's been doing Biomedical Mondays now for 6-7 weeks, and he sent me over a list of 10, 11, 12 questions. Because I'm his mentor, and him being a part of the community here, it's just a much more easy situation for me to do this live mentorship session with you guys and share it with you, like Mew, Absurdus, everyone else. Miri, thanks for being here. So if you have any questions particularly relevant to his questions, go ahead and throw them into the chat, and I'll give you guys a shout out when you come on in. But the difference between a resume and a cover letter, Hamza, great question. The resume is just your really snapshot of your profile, really, as you start this conversation with a company. And me, myself, you know, as you get rolling with your career, you're going to end up having like 2, 3, 4 different types of resumes. Like, for example, you may apply to a biomedical research position, and then you may shift your resume around to be more applicable to research. Maybe you're doing biomedical in like a device product type company. You might shift around your resume for that. But your cover letter is kind of like a specific letter to a person that you're handing that resume to. Like, hi, I'm Hamza, this is what I'm up to. And there's like a format for a cover letter that I would have to review a little bit more thoroughly before I finally answer. But pretty much what that cover letter is like, hey, I'm Hamza, this is why I'm in touch with you, this is what I'm doing, and this is the call to action, this is why it's relevant. I would love to have you review my resume and love to come in for an interview. So it's kind of like a little bit more of a conversation, a paper form conversation as you hand a resume, so you're not just this resume. It's kind of like, this is what I'm up to, this is why you have this resume, here are my goals, and this is what I want to do. I'm seeking an interview. So great question.
And at your career fair, should I make a cover letter or just resumes?
I think just having resumes. I never had a cover letter for mine. If you want to, you can. I would say, since you don't have a resume yet, just focus on building that resume, and if you have time, you can possibly create a cover letter. But really, your cover letter is going to be pretty intuitive because it's going to be like, well, to whom it may concern. You're not even going to be able to specifically mention someone's name, but you would say, this is what I'm up to. It's really going to be an emulation of the resume. But maybe you can put how, you're very passionate about biomedical engineering and your plan is to go to NC State. So you can, but I think your first priority should be building that resume and getting that ready.
Yeah, definitely.
Mew, I see your question. I'm just going to jump right into that. Can I recommend books for engineering, maths, and science? That's a super broad question. For example, I have lots of books about how to be successful in your career and how to find your passion and how to network and that sort of thing.
Personal development type stuff.
Personal development and professional development. Now, Mew, if you want to ask maybe a little bit more specific question within that question, what types of engineering, math, and science books you're referring to, I can chime into that. And while I'm letting you think about that, Hamza, let's just keep rolling here, because I think your next question is very interesting and very good, and a specific question that I don't get a lot. Hamza, I know you're tuned into the state of the U.S. economy, the state of the world economy, and as you know, being a little closer with me and us have building our relationship over many months, over all summer, you know that I graduated from undergraduate in civil engineering in 2009, the spring of 2009, arguably one of the worst times ever, because the stock market crash happened in September 2008 and went down for 6 months straight until half
that
of
was
the
junior
value.
year, right?
That was my senior year, actually, man. That was my final year in university, so it was literally the worst time ever. It went down all the way till March of 2009, and so what happened with me is I applied to go to grad school last minute to try to avoid the job market. And your question is kind of like, having some level of expectation that could happen again. I think you're right. I think it could happen again because here we are. I think it's the second longest positive stock market run in New York Stock Exchange history.
It's booming like crazy out there.
Yeah, that's right.
And all booms go bust. That's the reality of the situation.
That's right. The phrase "this too shall pass" goes for not only bad things but good things as well. So I think we're going to talk about that real quick, and then we'll get to whatever good addition. Mew wants to talk about some self-development books. That is a great question. I actually have a little stack here of books that I really like, and I'm ready for that question today because I was looking around for my Dale Carnegie book and my Napoleon.
Yeah, and I'm reading as well, so.
Yeah, that's good. So I think what you want to be ready for, Hamza, well, really, for you, Hamza, you have at least 4 or 5 years ahead of you until you're walking into the professional
Right, I have
world.
time.
So even if it happens today, even if it happens next year, it's going to have recovered by the time you graduate, and you're going to actually be in the another growth type period, because usually what happens is you bottom out, and then you have this weird sort of year or two, and then it surges again. And if anything, we're kind of waning right now. It's peaking. Everybody's been talking about stock market crashes for the last year at least. But really, say you are a senior right now, okay, and you think that you could be walking in some sort of economic travesty. What you need to be doing is you need to be ready for grad school, in my opinion, because universities don't stop. They always have funding, and it's a little bit of a better situation to just expand your education, get a slight advantage compared to other engineers out there, and just be having the best possible relationships with your professors as possible. Maybe volunteer to get involved with more research this semester so you have that under your belt and you know if you're going to be a good candidate for a master's degree. But really, to be prepared for an economic recession, you need to just be doing all the same stuff you would be doing otherwise, maybe even accelerate your networking even more. But it's really a function of, like, your job success is a function of the relationships you have and how you've positioned yourself to be prepared for a downturn in the economy. So it's really the same conversation. Just have as many friends out there as possible, and particularly be as connected to your professors as well as possible, because me, myself, I would have never gotten into grad school at University of Wisconsin-Madison. Shout out to you, Corey, Midwest family. Corey's from Iowa, which I love everyone who I've ever met from Iowa and Minnesota. But
I used to live in Indiana, so.
Oh, nice. There you go. Yeah, Indiana's in the Big Ten. I loved Indiana. Indianapolis is awesome. But you just really need to have your relationships ready to fire in the academic world and in also the professional world. So it's really just same thing as always, relationship building, networking on steroids. So if you have any more sort of micro questions within, I think I almost see this economic theme happen a couple more times in your questions list. So go ahead and let me know if that's kind of good enough as a response to that, or if you'd like me to expand on anything, if you have more questions within that.
By the way, how long was your master's degree?
So I spent 2.5 years in the grad program, which is a little longer than average. Usually people do it in 2, but I kind of extended it. But I'm going to get over to Mew had this book question. He talks about self-development books that I love. Honestly, Mew, this is number 1. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is the best professional and personal development book that you can ever read. Really, it's about how to listen better, how to make people like you by never telling them that they're wrong. And, you should never be arguing with people ever, because even if you think you won that argument, really, if you told somebody that they're wrong and you won an argument, they don't like you anymore. So it's very much pointless. About how to talk about things that they want to talk about and just kind of being a good listener. Again, it's kind of these core things over and over, but this is so good, and it has helped me become a better conversationalist. It has helped me become a better professional, so I love it. Other key books for you to check out. Check out Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans. He has interviewed some of the most successful people. It's actually right here. It's my mic stand. So it's probably this orange book that you'll recognize. Hopefully this mic isn't all vibrating, but that's a really good book. I would also check out Napoleon Hill's book called Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill wrote for Andrew Carnegie, not to be confused with Dale Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie was the steel baron who basically made Pittsburgh what it is today, and in the history of business has been one of the biggest, most successful big business magnates ever. We have, sorry, I can't, can you type out your name for me? I think this is someone who's Arabic. His name keeps coming up, and I think it's Arabic. But he says he would recommend Deep Work. I think I have Deep Work in here somewhere. I don't know.
Cal Newport's books are pretty good. Yeah, I read his How to Be a Straight A Student.
Yeah.
It's a step-by-step guide to get A's in college, really.
Yeah, I know that book, and I think I have another Cal Newport book in here somewhere.
I have one with me right now. Here, let me show it.
Oh, I'm thinking of this one.
I got one right here.
Yeah, another really good book. Which one's that? Show it.
So Good They Can't Ignore You.
Oh, I just bought that book.
You did? Oh, no, that's a different one. That's different, Jake.
Oh, that's good to great. You're right.
Although that's a pretty good book, I heard as well.
Yeah, that's Jim Collins. This one's really good too as well, Mew. This is really good. And whoever recommended Deep Work, in the chat, let me know what your name is so I can refer to you by name. What's up? Adriel? How do I say that? Thanks for coming by the chat, guys. So, Hamza, I hope that answered your questions about, how to be ready career-wise and student-wise for economic recession. But let's see, what else you got here? You say, this is question number 7. How did I get hired in 2010? The economy was still unpredictable, and there was a lot of fear. I find this is an important skill for yourself, and I think for others as well. You say the reality is that the cream of the crop rises. The best people always get ahead, regardless of what happens in the economy. Now, that's a good point, but I would... Yeah, I still don't know how to... Yeah, Arabic name. I knew that was Arabic. So what's up, guys? Thanks for being in the chat here. I really appreciate that. Thanks, Mew. The cream of the crop rising to the top, I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, but there is a precursor to this. Now, if you have the best grades out there and you have a little bit of experience, but maybe only like one internship, you still may not be perceived as the cream of the crop.
Right, yeah.
Again, it all comes down to who you know and the people that you have relationships with. And every job I've ever had, and I can speak directly to your question in 2009, I got a job from that company. It was called Delcan Corporation at the time. It was in Canada's top 50 companies. I got the job. I applied to 60 positions. I got that job because I knew a guy who worked in the office. He had come down from UW-Madison, and he got hired in Chicago, and then another guy got hired, and then he got referral money for him to get hired, and then this guy, Ross Tillman, shout out to you, Ross, you're awesome. He referred me, and then I was hired, and then there was a fourth Wisconsin guy. It was this big chain reaction of referrals, really, and if you are... If you respect someone enough and if you trust someone enough to refer that name, that person to your boss, chances are you actually are a good engineer, you're smart enough, you're going to be able to join that office and hit the ground running. So referrals go a long way. What they call that is a warm connection, a warm reference instead of just being a cold contact. I know you've heard that before, a cold email. Yeah. That's the difference between a warm connection, a warm email, and a cold email. If you don't know anybody, then you're kind of like taking a risk. But again, it comes down to relationships. It comes down to having really good relationships with not only the professionals in the world, but all the friends that you will meet in your engineering role, in your engineering road, in your engineering classes, and being a part of these clubs and going to these hackathons. That's why it's important to just be as involved with as many things as you possibly have the time to do, because these are the relationships that are going to yield things for you. So if you're not doing that stuff, you're really just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
So I'll let you chat a little bit about what you're, besides the hackathons, what other things are you considering getting involved with in the next, let's say, fall and spring sort of semesters and time zones, Hamza, that you can, where you can be building relationships with people? Like, do you know of any other events or maybe even clubs that you can get involved with?
I think there's MedTech. There's always Biomedical Engineering Society.
Right.
Which the dues are dirt cheap.
Right. And they probably do that for students.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that really quickly. I'm actually not familiar with that MedTech network or club or whatever that you just mentioned, so I'd love for you to enlighten 1% Nation and talk about that, because I'm not really sure what that is.
I haven't looked too much into it myself, but from the looks of it, it talks about medical technology, how it's advancing, and all that other stuff. There's probably going to be a lot of people there in the industry, probably some startups as well.
Yeah, anything startup related is really good, because just being friends with those people, like, these are some of the most successful people around, so just being connected to them in any fashion, again, they are so well connected to other people, to the rest of the world out there, that even if you don't land an opportunity from being associated with these groups, then just having that new friend is really strong. So that's good. I'm glad you mentioned this. So Mew, thanks again, man, for all these awesome questions. This is a good one, and I think it's a good conversation point for people like Hamza as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let this question sink in. Adriel, thanks a lot for the questions. And Ayad, I think it's Ayad, the Arabic guy, whatever questions you have, go ahead and fire them. So Mew says, would you recommend to get higher education for engineering, PhD, doctorate? If so, what kind of advantage are there with PhD, and is it worth it to spend money for higher education? Thank you so much. Great question. And this is a question that is sent out a lot on Quora and YouTube. First of all, Mew, really quickly, if you're an engineer, you will not pay for your master's degree. You will not pay for your PhD, okay? So it's not a financial thing. It comes down to opportunity cost and time commitment. I did not pay for my grad program because how that works is once you have your bachelor's degree, these positions for master's degrees are so competitive that they're willing to take the best students to give them free education and also pay them. Like, I had a $20,000 a year undergrad or graduate salary, and what you get is what's called a research assistantship, and they will give you a small salary, again, $20,000 a year. You're a student, so you get the health insurance, you get all the perks of being a student, you get the bus pass and the gym pass and all that type of thing. And how this works is you're responsible for being there at the lab, or being there in the research center, or being there in the ecosystem where the research is being conducted, wherever that is. Usually it's some sort of lab, or even for me as a civil engineer, you have a structures lab, lab, like a concrete lab or a bridge lab or traffic operations lab, and what your exchange is to validate that salary. You're not only working on your research, your master's degree or your PhD, but you're helping out all the other students. You may be required to do some field data collection. You may be required to write other papers for conferences. You may be required to do community engagement, like I had to participate in science fairs and Society for Women Engineer events and things like this, which I loved because, if you're a grad student in engineering, you really need to be committed. You really need to be passionate about this stuff. So that's the first question. Don't worry about the money side. It's going to be free if you do this right. Second of all, to really hone in on the core part of your question, if you want to get your PhD in engineering, you really have to consider what you want for your career. And this is why I encourage undergraduates to do research at the undergraduate level, at the college or university level before grad school, because I realized when I was in my graduate program that this is not what I want for my career. I don't want to write research papers. I don't want to sit in a lab and do data and handle all this stuff. I'm more of a people person, as you can see, guys, with all these videos, with this live streaming. I like conversation. I like people. I like relationship building. I want to be in the boardroom. I want to be managing projects. I want to be doing business development. I want to be doing sales and marketing. So if you like data, if you are a little bit more quiet and
MBA,
not introverted, yeah, exactly. I'm more a better candidate for MBA. That's exactly right. I realized that like 6 months into my graduate program. But if you like data, if you like working on your own projects, if you like being able to choose what you want to work on, then getting your PhD, getting your master's, it's always master's first. They require you that you work on your master's, get that. So it's a 2-year commitment, and then usually PhD is 3 more years for engineering. It depends for biomedical or chemical or any sort of biological attachments. Usually PhD can be accomplished in just 4 years. But if you have to consider what you want. Like if you want to be an executive, if you want to work in business, if you want to do more people-y stuff or project management, then you shouldn't necessarily go to grad school. Then you want to get your MBA, just like Hamza alluded to. But if you like research, if you like kind of the idea of always being on the pulse of whatever is new coming down the pipe of whatever your field is, say it's electrical or computer engineering or whatever, I can't exactly remember. I think you're a mechanical engineer. But I can't remember exactly. So you just kind of have to consider what you want for your career. And the best way is to get involved with volunteer research or maybe even paid. I was doing paid research when I was an undergraduate in Delaware. And that's what kind of helped me get into grad school. But it's a good way to know what you like, is to get involved with stuff. And what my dad always said is, you don't know what you like until you figure out what you don't like. So
well, let me elaborate on that, because my dad actually has a PhD in this field.
Oh, great. I didn't know that. That's
mechanical
awesome,
engineering. Dude. Honestly, he's not using his degree. If you wanna make money, as superficial as this sound, I don't think the PhD route is worth your time. Because time is one of your biggest assets that you have, and you've heard the phrase, time is money. So just think about that. The MBA route would probably be better.
Yeah, I couldn't echo that well, or even better myself. I mean, he's exactly right. I looked at my professor in graduate school who was tenured, his salary, and I was like, wow, I know that there's engineering professionals out there in this world who are making not quite double that, but a lot more. And time is your biggest asset. Gary Vaynerchuk says that all the time. Lots of entrepreneurs say that all the time, and he's exactly right. So what these professors will tell you is it's just like being like a high school teacher. Professors don't become professors and teachers don't become teachers because of the money. It's not what it's about. It's because they're so passionate about research and they're so passionate about what that career enables them to do, that Hamza's got it exactly right. And that's actually awesome, man, that your dad is a PhD mechanical engineer. I never knew that. What we should do is have you interview him for 1% Nation, and we can put that in one of these episodes. So love to talk more with you about that offline. We got a couple more questions on there that seem to be kind of connected to your career fair and some other things coming up. Adriel, thanks for the question. I think you're still in here. Hopefully, maybe in the chat, let me know if you're still in here and I'll get to your question. But he says, how do you make friends with people from other countries and cultural backgrounds? I'm asking because some schools are more internationally oriented. Well, Adriel, I think, making friends with international people has always been one of my priorities. I've had Arabic roommates, I've dated a girl from Iran, I've had lots of Chinese grad student friends, had lots of friends from all over. What's up, Adriel? So what I would like you to do for me is maybe expand on your question. Let's get a little bit more specific. Are you from the States, or what country are you from, and what type of cultural individuals are in either your research group, your classes, your professional world? I'd love to maybe speak very specifically to your situation and your question so I can help you a little bit more. And then Aid says, aside from job hunting, would I recommend learning a new language or learning a new skill or taking a job or an internship? It depends. Now, if you're Arabic, you clearly speak Arabic. I would say that, if however good, oh great, you're from Canada. I worked in Vancouver, Adriel, for 4 years, so I love BC.
And I actually lived in Canada before I came here. That's how I actually came here. My parents came here on a TN visa. I was a 2D.
Nice. What part of Canada were you living in, Hamza?
Cambridge. It was near Toronto.
Right.
So, Ontario province.
Adriel, what part of Canada are you from? And also, Aid, I like your question about the language stuff. How good is your English? That's probably your main thing, is getting on Duolingo, which is a free mobile app, so you can do English as much as possible. Because I'm sure your Arabic is great if you're from Arab country. Great, Adriel, you're from Toronto. Awesome. Yeah, I loved BC. I lived in Vancouver for 4 years. But Aid, back to your question about the language stuff. Clearly you speak Arabic because you are Arabic, regardless of whatever Arabic country or Muslim country that you are from. I think you expanding your English and finding a friend. This is the key thing. Finding a friend who also dreams of working around the world or whatever. To make yourself speak English as much as possible, because I've worked and had really good relationships with a lot of international people, whether that be a lot of Puerto Rican grad students in my research group, Chinese grad students. There was a couple Korean grad students in my research group at Wisconsin, and what they would do is they would separate into two groups. You would have the people who knew they were going back to their native countries to work and they did not care about learning English, and then you had the people who they knew they wanted to stay in the States and they knew that they wanted to work in the West, whether that's Canada or UK or Australia, and they intentionally hung out with each other and they spoke English as much as possible, because the only way to get better at something is to make yourself do it every day. Do it, practice, do it, practice. It really is a function of your time commitment there. So I don't know if you're still in the chat because you haven't responded while I've been answering this question, but that's what I would say to you, is just do it and practice. And really quickly, we get to one more question here. Oh yeah, that's right, Mew, your aerospace. Sorry about that. But Corey, you say, what professional or scientific society programs have I successfully used to jumpstart careers? For example, he says ASME, which I guess is American Society for Mechanical Engineers, Eclipse, SAE, DOB, Ambassador. I actually don't know a lot of these. I'm not sure what SAE is or DOE. But good question. Really, I'll speak to the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and the reason why I like that one is because I've been to some ITE conferences, I've been to some events like the Traffic Bowl, and a lot of you aren't going to be able to relate to Institute for Transportation Engineers because that is really just a specific niche society within civil engineering, within traffic and transportation. But I think being involved with whatever professional society, whatever engineering society is directly related to your sort of facet within engineering is going to be really good, because you're going to be meeting professionals who are working in the jobs that you want to be getting jobs in. So I guess I can't really speak in attachment to a lot of you out there, because the ones that I've had success with are more niche in my field. So I think I would just advise you to be attached to the ones, Corey, I know that you're in the power industry. So I would just encourage you to look for clubs and groups that are a little bit more attached to that. And if you can expand on these other ones that you mentioned, that would be awesome. And that way we can maybe talk a little bit more. And Corey, maybe, I know that you're a go-getter. I know you're a future entrepreneur out there as well, and you're trying to get as involved with as many things as possible. So maybe you have some stories about how, also know you're in Engineers Without Borders, about some friends or some relationships or some opportunities that you've had that you can share with us, and I'll kind of talk about what you mentioned in the chat. So Hamza, I know you've been very patient as I'm getting to some other questions, so let's get right back to your list here. Thanks again. And I'm glad you jumped in with the comment about your dad being a PhD mechanical engineer. So at any given time, if you have anything to add with these other questions in the chat, please go ahead, because you're a part of 1% Nation too. Guys, Hamza is the only other content creator for 1% Engineer. So thanks again for being there for this family, for this community. What do you got here? I mean, think your eighth question here. What should you do in a career fair? We've really covered that quite thoroughly.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's research on the blogs and the websites and the social media about these companies that you want to talk to and know about their relevant wins, their awards, their updates, their project announcements, whatever, new softwares. But just knowing their current events right now and those being icebreakers, that being part of your elevator speech, and also using LinkedIn to search for the company that people work for and being graduates of that school that is hosting the career fair. And you may be able to forecast which professionals that company sends to the career fair. And you can even have quick little bio lines of these people printed out on a Word document or in a Google Drive document. And that way you can walk right out to people and be like, oh, hey, you're Brian, right? You work for whatever and you went to this school too. And they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe you know all that. And they're going to be so impressed, and you're going to be able to hack your way into an awesome way to stand out. What else you got here? What should you wear? We covered that. Definitely wear a suit, guys. For all of you who don't think you have to wear for all of you who think you don't have to wear a suit at a career fair, you are wrong. So many people are going to be thinking like that, oh, I'll just wear a tie, or I won't even wear a tie, I'll just wear a jacket, or I'll just wear a button-down shirt. And then what's going to happen is you're going to feel silly when you get there and there's like 10% of the people wearing suits, and you're going to notice how much more baller they look than you. So it's going to affect your confidence. It's going to affect your ability to just like with swagger walk right up to people, because how you look affects how you feel. Because if you feel confident and you feel like a boss, you're going to act like a boss, and also you're going to stand out like a boss. So get that jacket on, guys, with that tie, wear a suit if you have a matching suit. That's exactly what you should be doing. So I'm happy to hear that you have a blazer. Go ahead, Hamza. I see you got your phone there with your list.
Next question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. Oh yeah, student loan debt. Did you acquire any?
Oh yeah.
If so, how are you paying them off? What should you do, etc.?
Great question. This is an awesome topic because it is relevant to all you 1% engineers out there. But before I get that, I'm gonna. You should see the comment engagement that the stream got 2 days ago. I got 200 comments in 2 hours, so my analytics on YouTube is like my comments are like through the roof that day. So all of these comments that happen in live chat count towards channel authority, so it's really cool. But student loan debt. Okay, so the average student in America has $30,000 of student loan debt when they exit school. I have more than that, okay? And that doesn't include master's program because that was all paid for. I even had a salary while I was working. So this is why, Hamza, I think you are very smart going to community college for 2 years first and saving a lot of money, living at home, not partying as much, because you spend a lot of money partying and the social life of buying food out. You end up just getting lumped into peer pressure situations, and undergraduate is super expensive. My University of Delaware went from like $25,000 of out-of-state tuition. It's now almost $50,000. It's increased 100% to almost $50,000 in the 8 to 12 years that I've been out of school. I say 8 to 12 because I started 12 years ago and graduated 8 years ago.
Is it private or public?
It's not. It's public. It's not private.
What?
It's just fancy. Yeah, University of Delaware wants to be fancy. It gets a little fancy up here in northern Delaware. People don't know about Delaware, but it gets a little fancy. Like DuPont is from here. What's up, Des? I will get to that question right away. Thanks for you guys who are just stopping in. We have a couple people who've just joined the live chat. What's going on right now? Hamza is a member of the 1% Engineering team. He's a blog writer for me, and we're doing a one-on-one mentorship session where he has dished out about 10 different questions about getting ready for job fair and how to get new experience, resumes, what you should be wearing at these professional networking events. So whatever questions you guys have, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll give you a shout out and get right to that question. Right now we're talking about student loan debt And how I'm dealing with that, if I have student loan debt, I do. I have more than the average of $30,000 of student loan debt. So the biggest thing that you guys can be doing as students with the student loan debt situation is try to be proactive about it and not incurring as much student loan debt as you possibly could. But things like maybe going to community college, things like potentially living at home for the first year or two, even though I'm not sure if that's exactly what you should do, because you really do build good relationships. Like, for example, when you are finished up with your community college situation, Hamza, I would highly encourage you to live on campus for your junior and senior, your third and fourth years at NC State or UNC Chapel Hill, because you'll build better relationships with students that way. You'll just have a little bit more accessibility to campus. So that's kind of an investment. But I never encourage people to go to schools that are outside of their state, because you really should be, every state has really good schools. You alone, you're talking about NC State, you're talking about UNC Chapel Hill. There's a couple more that are really good there as well. Like Duke is good. But you don't have to go out of your state to go to a good school. There's also plenty of scholarship and grant and financial support options out there that people don't even know about, that people don't even strive to achieve. So getting really good grades in high school and applying to scholarships and grants and all types of tuition support programs, like right now for you, before you apply to NC State. I have a feeling you're going to end up going to NC State. That's why I always lead with that. It's just such a good engineering school. And I think UNC is just, it's a lot of name, it's a lot of brand. I feel like it's going to be a lot more expensive. So those are things that you can be doing. You can also try to work when you're a student. It's a little tough because engineering is so hard already. What's up, IE? Thanks for the extra question. I think engineering is so hard already that I didn't work when I was a student. I did do internships during my winter breaks and engineering internships in my summer breaks. So I think
those are usually paid. So
those are usually paid. That's exactly right. So I think you should always be doing those. I think you have to weigh your options. Like, if you're such a good student that you can get away with working 10, 12 hours a week doing whatever you're doing, and you still have
right, everyone's different.
Yeah, exactly right. Everyone's different. Maybe you have a job that you've been working for so many years that you get paid well enough. Maybe you're making $15, $20 an hour as a student, and you should be working. Or maybe you have a job where you can actually study while you're on the job. Or maybe you are working a job that is connected to your line of expertise. For example, I was a surveyor in the summers before I was getting my internships, my engineering internships. So that situation actually led me to my first ever internship. So because it was connected to civil engineering, right? So it depends. Everyone's different. It depends on the opportunities you have. It depends on the amount of the wages you can achieve. It depends on the environment. Some kids can just work a BS job and literally study while they're on the job. So it depends. I don't know if you love to hear what else you have to add to that, Hamza. If you plan on working, what do you think about all this?
I mean, I really can't work because of my immigration status, although we're trying to switch that out.
Right.
Hopefully I'll get my green card soon. I think we're expecting it in the next year.
Right. That's awesome.
So that'll be great.
Yeah. Des, thanks for the question here, man. He says, how do I get experience in engineering before I apply to jobs? Great question. I think, Des, maybe, again, if you could elaborate on your situation, I can speak directly to that, because I don't know if you're a student yet. I don't know if you're in high school yet. But for example, if you're a university student, yeah, Des, go ahead. Now that I can see that you're in the chat here. Let me know what your situation is, where you're from, if you're an engineering student, if you're like a senior in high school, or what's going on for you. Because it seems like you don't have that much professional experience yet, because he says, how do I get experience in engineering before you apply to jobs? So let me know if you've graduated or whatever your situation is, and I'll speak directly to that. And since these questions are really firing away, and I hope these questions in the chat can help you out as well, Hamza. So let me know how you're feeling about that. But Aid says, and I don't know, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, because it's just the Arabic characters. It's E-Y-A-H. Ayad? Ayah? What is the best way, he says, to get into research as an undergraduate student? What is more important, your relationship with the professor or your understanding of the modules? Great question. your relationship with a professor is hands down the most important thing, because whatever research you be involved with as an undergraduate, you're gonna learn that while you're doing research. The stuff that you learn in class, it's gonna kind of lay the groundwork and the foundation for the research that you do with your professor, but you're gonna learn everything in the lab. You're gonna learn everything along the way. And the best way to, again, just kind of like what you've already alluded to, the best way to get into doing research as an undergraduate is all the things that I talk about with building professor relationships. Being active in class. Do not look at your phone in class. Participate. Ask questions. Be engaging. Sit in the front. Sit in the middle core area where he has more likelihood of recognizing you every day. Stay after class. Ask questions every day. Build a good relationship with that TA. Go to office hours. And once you kind of have built a good relationship with your professor, you can even ask him to coffee and then ask for opportunities to volunteer. Ask for opportunities to get involved. Hamza, I would highly encourage you to be doing this. Even when you're at community college, you can be building relationships with these professors at NC State. Whichever school is closest, build some relationships with them and ask them to coffee. And you could probably even get involved with university research before you're even at these schools. I had a PhD environmental engineer on here from UCLA, Alex Palasco, and she was doing research at Stanford when she was in high school. Okay, so it is possible to be doing research at universities, at high-level universities, well before you're even there. So that's something that you guys can all be doing. Hamza, let me know how you feel about that. If that's something that you are thinking that you could be doing while you're in, your community college situation. If you think that, a lot of people are afraid, but I think you're brave enough to be emailing these professors and building relationships. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, I actually did email a professor, and surprisingly, he responded to me.
Yep.
So I did check the place out at UNC, and it was pretty cool.
What do you mean? You did a tour? You did a tour or something?
No, I just saw research. It was a grad student there, and then the professor was coming in and out because they're busy.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is that Wake Tech, where I go to, actually has an undergraduate research program, so I got to send out that email to the person, because what happens in college, what other people told me, is that they give those type of opportunities to juniors and seniors. So when I come in, I already have a leg up.
Right.
And other people told me that you kind of have to have some type of experience or something going for you before you apply to these positions, because they're pretty competitive.
That's right.
I think you can elaborate more on that because you actually went to a 4-year college throughout your entire career.
That's right. We'll get to that in 1 second. So, guys, all of you that are chatting right now, especially Des, you're from Ireland, and all of you who are in this chat, friend me on Facebook so I can invite you guys to the 1% Engineer Facebook group, where, and Hamza, you can speak to this. We are always talking about opportunities and awesome conversation points. Corey's in the group. What I very commonly do is I'll connect a student engineer to a specific question that they need from, advice from an aerospace engineer, like, Mew, it can hook you up with somebody in there, or just sharing more ideas, sharing opportunities, sharing wins, connecting these engineers. So go ahead and shoot me a connect on Facebook. But yeah, Hamza, to your point, I think you're exactly right. Shooting those emails over and getting involved with undergraduate research is something you highly should be doing. It helped me. Really, it helped me in 2 ways. It kind of laid the groundwork for me to get into grad school. But really, honestly, one of the best things that it did was it put me on the radar of all the other professors. So because I was doing research with one, I got such heightened respect from all the other professors. I became a grader for another professor, and it was that professor, not the one that I was doing research with, but it was this other professor that I was a grader for, who got me into grad school at University of Wisconsin. And then, of course, because I had such good relationships with all the professors, it's such an easy ask to get letters of recommendation, to have them on your reference list, and these are things that you would never be able to do as well if you weren't doing research with them. It also allows you to figure out what you like if you're actually wanting to go to grad school and things like that. So that's what I have to say to that. Let's see here. Des, I want to get to your question because he's got a good one here. He's got a 2-part question, which is, how do I get more experience in engineering before I apply to jobs? He says he is in an electronic engineering, I guess that's electrical engineering, or I guess it's electronics engineering student in Ireland, going into your 2nd year. Great. So you're just a year ahead of Hamza. What you need to
I
be
would say
doing.
build some circuits.
Yeah. Okay.
Have some other projects that you're doing on the side. They
Yeah.
don't have to be super expensive. Just do something. Don't ask for permission from
Yep.
an employer or anything like that.
That's right. Get involved with as many projects on your own as you possibly can. And I would say when you're doing these projects on the side, what you should be doing is start that engineering blog, make yourself a personal brand as a power engineering student, put it out on social media. Don't be afraid to share your work with the world, because if you don't share your work, then people are never going to know that you're doing this stuff. So build a little portfolio of the projects you're working on. And then the biggest thing, again, it's really just a few similar points here, Des, but if you're building really good relationships with your professors, you can reach out to them and volunteer to do research and have that on your resume before you apply to jobs. Go to every career fair, just like what Hamza is prepping for coming up here next weekend, and follow up with those people after you meet them at a networking event or a career fair, and then ask them to informational interviews. And then what you can do is you keep that relationship going, and then finally when you're ready to ask for an internship in the summers, like for example going into next summer, you should definitely have your first ever engineering internship. I'm going to make sure that you do. But once these people know, like, and trust you, they're so much more likely to give you an opportunity. Other ways for you to stand out as a student and build relationships with people who can give you internships is get involved with an engineering team, like solar powered car or robotics team for you, because you're in electronics engineering. These are things that are going to be applicable to your field. And then again, it allows you to connect a little bit better with the professor advisor for that club, and other companies are going to sponsor the team and that sort of thing. And it's just a nice conversational point when you ask for an interview, an informational interview, not a job interview. But when you go and email people, when you chat with people, so just getting involved with as many things, meeting as many people as possible, that's what you got to be doing.
The other thing I wanted to add was that on one of your interviews with John Lupu, he said that he did CAD and SolidWorks in his spare time.
Yeah.
I would say go ahead and do that.
100%. The more stuff that you know, the more stuff that you're actively doing, the better it's going to be for you in your situation. Adriel has a question here. It says, he's not in school yet. Great. Considering going to University of Toronto next year. That's awesome. I highly encourage you to go check out the channel that's called AF Math and Engineering. I went live on their YouTube channel. It's Avi and Fred. They're civil engineers at University of Toronto, so you should connect with them.
And it's a very good college. I will say that right now.
Great college, yeah. That and Waterloo are like the best engineering colleges in English. I think your question was you want to connect with. His original question was how do you make friends with people from other countries and cultural backgrounds? Really, what you need to do is show them that you have a positive attitude towards them. You need to show them that you're interested in their culture, that you're interested in their background. Exactly, because a lot of people, like, I don't know if you're a white dude out there like me, but a lot of people who are, not white in America, and I knew Canada is like quite a bit more diversively friendly than America. I mean, America is pretty good depending where you are. Like Hamza, where you are, Raleigh is pretty diverse and pretty open and everything like that. But depending where you are in North Carolina, you yourself could get looked at differently just because you're not white. You know what I mean? So I think. Like for example, what I do, I live in a community that there's a lot of black people, there's a lot of non-white people, and what I do is I, look them in their eyes just like they're anybody else. Say hello, I'm nice to them, and I give them the time of day, and I'm just open-minded to them. And at work, I take the time to make sure that these people know I'm interested in them and engaging with them, and include them in conversations and little group lunch functions and things like that. So it's more about having that belief first inside of you that you want to get to know these international people and you're open-minded to diverse, and then showing it through your actions, right? So that's what I would encourage you to do. If you have anything to add, let me know about that, Hamza. You can probably speak to this. Like, for example, for your white friends in North Carolina, the ones that you've built better relationships with, what was it that made it so it was easier to connect with those people or whatever?
I guess just really talking with them. To be honest, throughout my life, I've never really had a whole bunch of white friends. I mostly had brown friends because I can predict their type of behaviors and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be another tip that I would have. With certain cultures, I know a lot of people say racial profiling is bad, this and that, but more often than not, you can predict someone's behavior through racial profiling. So that's sometimes what I do to break the ice. I ask them, hey, what's your name? And through their name, I'll ask, are you from India?
Right.
And like for example, people with the last name of Patel, I can almost 100% think that you're from the Gujarat province, and more often than not, I'm right.
That's really good.
It's stuff like that,
Yeah, it's really good. And Adriel, he's added a couple things here, which is great. He says he's scared that he will struggle to form study groups with people from other parts of the world. I wouldn't worry about that.
Just ask.
Yeah, just ask. Exactly right. Just ask and just be the best sort of social student, and make sure you're talking with all these people. And if you're participating in class, and if you are staying after, and if you're getting involved with these clubs, and you're going to office hours, the students that want to be studying together, who are go-getters and 1% engineers, you guys are going to find each other. And this is how you will find each other, is just lead, put your best foot forward, as they always say, and don't have your phone in your pocket when you walk, or don't have your phone in your hand looking at it on your way into and out of class. Speak to your colleagues or your classmates, these international students that you might be interested in. And honestly, if you just are nice to them and speak to them and say, hey, I would love to get to know you better, or love to study with you, just ask. Just like Hamza said, just ask. Invite them to study with you, and they will say yes. Everybody wants to be friends with someone else. Everyone wants to study with other people, so don't be shy. Just go ahead and ask.
And if it doesn't work out, there's hundreds of other people. It's a college campus.
Right. Des, great question. Des says, and this is Des from Ireland, and I can't remember what type. Oh, yeah, that's right, electronics engineer. Sorry, I go through so many different engineering sort of questions that I always get the background until I've known somebody for a little bit. Like, clearly I'm never going to forget that you're biomed, or Corey's in the power area. I don't know if you're still in here, Corey. I think you are. You've been chatting with people. Yeah, you're done. Yeah, he's answering questions for. Thanks, Corey. You're kind of like moderating the chat. I love that. But Des has a little mention here. He says, I would like to get an internship, but my CV does not really have anything engineering related. Great ad. And we've talked about this a little bit already today, but this is the situation for many people, so don't worry. What you need to be doing is getting involved with as many things as possible. Again, you said you finished up your first year in Ireland. If you had an engineering club, if you're a part of an engineering team, solar powered car or robotics team or whatever, if you're volunteering to do university research, if you're going to things like hackathons like what Hamza is going to next weekend, if you are putting out content and creating an engineering blog or a personal brand around your social media, you can put that on your resume, honestly, that you are running a blog. Or if you're a blog writer for a blog out there like mine, like Hamza can put on his resume that he's a blog writer for 1% Nation. And that's another thing that he's getting involved with. Me on my resume, I do so many things that are not a job. I write for Engineering Truth. I narrate videos for Explore Engineering. I'm a student space ambassador for the Mars program. These are all things that I just do in my spare time that I barely have time to do. I'm a volunteer filmmaker for TEDx Wilmington. None of these are jobs. All of these are volunteer, things that you guys can all be getting involved with. And will you have an opportunity to be on the board of the Mars Generation or a TEDx filmmaker right away? No. This has been 10 years of me being involved with more and more things, and building out my Rolodex and just getting involved with stuff. And my favorite quote ever is, the more that you do, the more it enables you to do. And you just have to have this snowball effect. And getting started is the hardest thing. But volunteer, Connect with people, get involved, do as much stuff as possible, figure out where these hackathons are, and just get more involved. With every new person that you meet, just the next thing and the next thing and the next thing happens. So if you have anything to add to that, Hamza, go ahead, man.
Yeah, getting started is extremely difficult. But once you get in the flow of things, it's all good.
100%.
You're just balling.
100%. So I think we're going to pause from... I'll catch up with the chat questions really quickly. I know that you just asked one more chat. So let's go back to your list, Hamza. What do we got here? I think we only have 2-3 more. It seems to be only 2 more. Your 11th question here, you say, what happened to the classmates at UD who I graduated with in the recession, who had student loan debt? You probably had such classmates. Honestly, UD is such a good school that I think the job placement rate is really high. So most people were able to get a job, or they were able to go to grad school. I want to talk about my friend Corey Tista really quick, who has an interesting story where he's a mechanical engineer, graduated with me, and he didn't have the best situation to go to grad school or things like this, and he ended up just working in the restaurant industry for a couple of years, and it was totally fine because he took opportunities that were at his fingertips, and he worked and made money and just kind of delayed his real engineering career for a couple of years, and everything was fine. He just got started a little bit later, and he got rolling actually with a civil engineering company here a few years ago. I don't know if it was 3-4 years ago or whatever, and he just took another job. He got headhunted and took a big promotion to take another job. So if you graduate into a recession, go ahead, Hamza.
That's awesome. I wanted to add something about the restaurant.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're a waiter, even though the pay kind of sucks, it's like, what, $2 per hour? But if you can get those tips, though,
yeah, you
can make some good money there.
Yeah. Also, what's interesting about being a waiter or even like a bartender, because I have family or other friends who they may bartend on the side, or even like the first 6 months or a year of exiting college because they're not really ready for that office job yet. You meet so many people in the service industry, in the bar and the restaurant industry. You never know when that next like engineering manager is going to be the person at the table, right? So you can meet a lot of people. You just never know what's going to happen. And as long as you're networking and trying to get involved with all these societies and community groups and engineering clubs and whatever, even as a graduate, if you're not working in the field yet, you can still get involved. So
yeah, just have that wow factor as a waiter, and people will pay you good money.
That's right.
Waiting.
We're going to get back to the chat here really quick. Corey mentioned, he says, I think Jake hinted at it with his summer jobs, and if something I did too, work for projects with people who are in the peripheral engineering that you want to do. Yeah, surveying for civil. That's exactly right. What Corey's talking about is how you engineering students, which most of you are, can get involved with things that are connected to your industry. You can work for things that maybe are not like a direct engineering company, but using my situation as a surveying, or Hamza for you, for example, there are 3D printing and biomedical service providers that make the components that a biomedical engineering firm would use for their prosthetic arms or for their robotic pieces. So you can get involved with, again, the peripheral industries that are connected to your ultimate employer goals. So that's something that you should target for internships, for research, for informational interviews. Building relationships with all those people is going to be a strong situation for you.
Right, just make do with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say.
Adriel, good mention about U of T and Waterloo being top choices. I worked with a lot of University of Toronto and a few Waterloo engineers when I was in Vancouver for 4 years, and they were smart as heck. What else we got here? Corey, thank you so much for giving these guys advice in the chat. I really appreciate you. You are my flagship power engineer. We call him Corey Power, guys. And I, for a while, was thinking that Corey was an electrical engineer, but I think, Corey, you're mechanical, right? You've ended up sort of working for a small power station or I think it's a power generation station. I still a little clueless as to what you do because that's not my field, but I know that the photos you send me are awesome, and the value that you provide any sort of power, electrical, or even mechanical engineers wanting to go into power has been so good in the 1% Engineer Facebook group. So again, guys, scroll up in the chat and friend me on Facebook so I can get you in that 1% Engineer Facebook group.
I think you should interview him.
Corey? Yeah, I've been trying to. Corey and I are both really busy, but we're trying to figure that out. You hear that, Corey? Hamza says that you should be on the 1% Engineer show. You should definitely come on this, experimenting with some more YouTube live stuff, because I interviewed maybe 10, 11, 12 engineers so far, and we do it offline, and then I put the video, but this is definitely the way to go. First of all, as you can see, we only have 8, 9, 10 people who are live at any given time, but I love that because I didn't realize, but when I streamed live for 2 hours the other night, 2 hours and 12 minutes, there was like 80, 90 people who came and went, and at any given time there was like 10, and it got like 200 comments in 2 hours. So the engagement and the value that I can provide, plus like asking a specific question or answering a specific question right then, right there to people who are in the chat is just so valuable. So yeah, Corey, we should do this for sure. I see you're in the chat right now. We should find a time to do this any evening that you're available. I think we passed around dates. That's right. We passed around our calendars lately, so we're honing in on that. Okay, guys, I'm going to get to sport chats here because, Hamza, I think you only have one more question on your list, but it's again.
Yeah, how did colleges respond to the recession?
Colleges are on the winning end of the stick during a recession because what happens is the job market's not that good, so people either go back to school, they might even extend it and try to like get another major, stay for one more year, double major, stay for 1 or 2 more years, get a master's degree. So colleges, if anything, it's like a college market, right? Because if the job market's bad, the people surge, the academic situation surges. So they don't really have to respond. If anything, they can be more selective, or it's a good opportunity for them to expand and almost like offer new programs if they want. So, good question, man.
I mean, I meant to the students that were graduating into the economy.
Oh, so what's the
question? How did they help those guys out, if they even bothered at all?
Oh, good question. I don't know if I can specifically speak to this because I moved away 10 days after I graduated and jumped right into a grad school situation and wasn't really in that situation where I was aware of what colleges were doing. But I would say that if colleges were trying to support the engineers and the professionals who were walking into the recession, walking into the economic downturn, what they can be doing is throwing more events in their career services department. What they can have, like for example, University of Wisconsin had a career services thing that was just for engineering, and we did like nightly or weekly or bi-weekly things where they bring in a professional, talk about resumes, talk about networking. It was like $20 for the semester. They gave me this nice booklet with all these resources. So maybe they added that in response to 2008. I'm not sure, but those are things that colleges can do. So I don't know if I can speak directly to examples that I've seen, but that's definitely some stuff that they should be doing.
I guess we should just answer questions because we're done with what we want.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So yeah, I think this is really good. I like all the questions that you had for me, Hamza. It was like 10, 11, 12 questions, some of them being similar, but that's totally fine. So if you have any more, let me know. If you have any more little micro questions for your job fair, for your hackathon coming up, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, I would love, if you have to go, that's fine, but I'd love for you to hang out and continue with this conversation. We're here at an hour and 30 minutes. I'll probably keep this rolling for like another 30 at least, but if you have to go, you let me know. I don't think this has really been laggy. I think it was really just the beginning. So sorry about blaming your sister, but I'm really concerned, or I'm really aware of how much bandwidth that Netflix can take up or whatever. So I'm going to just get right back over to these questions.
Don't sweat it.
Go ahead, yeah. Des, thanks for all the questions, Des. Seriously, friend me on Facebook so I can get you in the 1% Engineer Facebook group. How many jobs should I apply to if I want to get a summer internship? You should apply to as many as you possibly can.
As many as possible.
Yeah, that's right, because you never know. You could apply to 10. I mean, I applied to 60 jobs when I was in grad school. And
how many offers did you get?
How many offers did I get? I think I only got 2 offers. It was still 2011, late 2011, and the job market was bad, right?
Yeah, but you only got to get one.
That's right. You only got to get one. And that's kind of our core response to you, Des, is that you got to just apply until you get that one. And honestly, here's the attitude is it's not a minimalistic, how many do I have to apply to get one offer? You want to be in a situation where you have 2, 3, 4 offers so that you can leverage them against each other and say,
yeah, the companies are going to compete for you.
That's right. That's right. And even if it's an internship level, you can say, well, these guys are wanting to pay me $15 an hour, and so you can kind of take the best one, or you want to be in a situation where you're in the driver's seat to be picky, right? And if you don't apply to a lot of things, if you're not building a lot of relationships, you're not going to be in that situation. So,
one of the things Mark Cuban said that in business, nobody cares about how many times you fail. In business, you only got to be right one time. Then you can live the life that you want.
That's right. Colonel Sanders from KFC, he got 1,009 no's before somebody accepted his KFC recipe. So
yeah.
Nobody remembers the amount of failures that you had until you were that breakout success. So you're exactly right.
When I saw the movie The Founder, Ray Kroc literally grabbed the gravel on the ground where he was building his McDonald's. He was like, just be right one time. Just be right one time.
Only takes one. Iya says, I think most international students want to make friends, but the problem is that some cultural groups hang out with each other, which makes it difficult.
Definitely.
100%.
I can speak that from brown people. We tend to hang out with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a very natural human nature thing.
Yeah.
People have a tendency to connect a little better and relate a little better to people who look like them, who may have the same, cultural or social cues as them, religious backgrounds as them, everything, right? So the way that you can kind of deviate from that is to be friendly and be social with the people who are outside of your core group. I'm always trying to talk to the international Asian students, the brown students, black students, things like this, and just let them know that it's okay to talk to me back and that you're social and friendly. And then, again, don't be afraid to invite these other people into your little homework groups, or maybe even say, hey, I would love to study with you guys, or kind of put yourself out there and things like that. But just kind of being friendly and social and inviting people to let them know that it's okay to engage and talk and everybody be friends with each other. And this is another reason why you should be getting involved with engineering clubs, engineering societies, because you will get people from all facets of engineering. And what may happen is that club could be a precursor for you making like one friend who, if you're Arabic, one friend who's white, one friend who's Asian, one friend who's something else, and then you can branch into their friend groups as well just by having that one friend. So again, the core thing here, guys, is build as many relationships with people as possible and get as involved with as many things as you possibly can, because those things are just going to lead to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. You never really know what one friendship can do and have this massive trickle-down effect.
The other thing I wanted to add is that I'm pretty sure colleges have like such types of events where you can network with such people. I'm sure of it.
Totally.
Just keep your eyes open.
100%. Okay, Adriel, Absurdus, great. Thanks for the questions, and Corey also. Yeah, definitely. We'll get this interview going too. I've been wanting to interview you for a while. Ever since you sent me those questions. Ever since you sent me those photos of your employer of the power station, I was like, man, this is awesome. I gotta get you on the show, dude. You're so legit. Okay, Adriel says, in high school, I had to retake a class to boost my marks. Does that diminish my chances of getting into some schools? I'm 18. I love this channel, by the way. Thank you, Adriel. I really love the support.
Some schools, unfortunately, yes. I have to say.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, as long as your high school GPA is good enough to get into certain schools, having to retake a class to boost marks is okay. I had to retake a class when I was in university. I had to drop out of a class when I was in university. So really, as long as you get the high school diploma and you get okay grades, but seriously, the high school level is the same conversation as this. If you're an athlete, if you're a National Honor Society, if you're volunteering in the community, if you're a part of clubs, if you're maybe like a leader in clubs, or even now that you've graduated, if you're doing stuff that's out there in the community, volunteering, shadowing people, putting out content, making a portfolio of all your projects, working, playing intramural sports, things like this is what people want, is somebody who's active and involved in a lot of stuff and being ambitious and showing their work, building that portfolio. So grades are just grades. Honestly, your grades are like one of the least, you need good enough grades, but it's one of the least important, least considered facets of your credibility today. So don't worry too much.
Yeah, your GPA won't really guarantee you success in the real world. You just keep at it.
100%. Absurdus, great question. Does volunteer work look good on a resume to an engineering university, even if the volunteer work doesn't pertain to engineering and STEM? Absolutely right. Any type of engineering looks good. If you're doing walks for cancer, if you're doing engineering, or if you're doing volunteer stuff where you're planting trees or saving the bay or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Anything at all looks great, because it shows that you are not lazy. It shows that you're giving back to the community. It shows that you're out there networking and being a positive member of society. Now, if you could be volunteering to help out like a local Engineers Without Borders, or volunteering for engineering fundraisers or anything in STEM, that's slightly better, not because they will perceive that as better, but because you will meet people who are going to be connected to your field, who you can volunteer with more, who you can shadow at their office, who you can do informational interviews with, who you can ask about for internships or jobs or their engineering clubs and societies. So I would encourage you to try to get involved with volunteering that's attached to engineering, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming, because we are now through the official question lineup that Hamza had for me, and I'm just going to keep ripping questions here until feeling like not adding as much value to your lives, which so far so good. This has been the second live stream that I've ever done, and it's been awesome. Lots and lots of comments. So I'm just going to keep this rolling. Des, thanks again for more questions. Really, really happy that you're here. So last question, he says, my dream job would become a research and development engineer and build medical devices, biomedical engineering, and get involved with medical robotics. Can you give me some advice in getting into that? Hamza, I would like to hear your response to this question, actually, because it is so closely linked up with your world.
That's actually a really good question. I would say look around for organizations on the internet that are in this space, and go to such events. Like, I think MedTech was one of them.
Yeah. So
try to go there if you can. That's really the best thing I can think of. I don't know too much about this space myself because I'm learning as I'm going along in my career.
Right. 100%. I think, Des, what you can also be doing, one of the best ways for you to figure out who these people are that are involved with this stuff is go to Indeed.com or Monster.com and search for a biomedical engineering company jobs in your area, and just look at the companies who are actively hiring, because these are the companies who are busy and billable and actually doing stuff, and try to figure out what events they're sponsoring, go to their social media, go to their blogs, go to their websites, and just figure out where these companies are spending their time, who they're, if they're going to these med dev or med tech, and if they're going to hackathons, and just kind of start to entrench yourself in that community, figure out who the biomedical professors are at any local universities or at your university, build better relationships with them, and you're going to be able to get a little bit more of a precursor of what an R&D situation would be for biomedical engineering. Get involved on Reddit. There's a biomedical engineering subreddit, and build relationships with those guys who are already in the career fields and ask them what they've done. That's kind of the point of the 1% Engineer Facebook group, is putting all these engineers together like a mastermind, like a think tank, to get ideas from them. But yeah, again, just get involved with as many stuff in that specific niche that you're trying to target. It seems like you know exactly what you should be doing. Another thing, that if you want to be in R&D for medical devices and biomedical engineering, then you should be R&Ding right now. You should be figuring out what types of projects you can be doing at home. You should be building stuff, building that portfolio, making that blog about medical device research or whatever, just like what Hamza has a biomedical engineering blog on 1percentengineer.com. And he is telling his story of the research he's doing about the professionals that he aspires to be like, devices, inventors, companies who are coming out with awesome technologies. He's adding some great value to the biomedical engineering world, because he's really doing the research himself for his own career and just repurposing that back out there to the world to help out people like you. So I would encourage you to be doing the same, Des.
The other thing I wanted to add is that what I noticed about this space is that it tends to be concentrated in certain areas. What I've noticed is it's concentrated in my area, Raleigh, in other areas, Texas, in other areas, California, and then the other area I saw was Minneapolis. There's a company that I think you should look at for the guy who asked the question, Medtronics. Yeah, it's in Minneapolis. So just keep that in mind. A lot of these companies tend to be concentrated in a certain area, like a hub.
100%. Yeah, figure out where these sort of concentration areas are for the jobs that you're going for, and network with people there, or just figure out what type of events are going on there. Maybe fly in or drive in for those types of events. Okay, so I think this guy is from Ukraine, and I don't know exactly because his YouTube handle is in Ukrainian. I'm pretty sure that's Ukrainian. Says, when the challenge is a little bit hard and I'm stuck in my investigations, is it possible to communicate with other students from foreign countries like the USA? What you need to be doing is you need to get into these Facebook. What's that?
Yes, the answer is yes. It's never been easier in the world than today.
100%. What you need to be doing is getting into the engineering subreddits. You need to be getting into the Facebook groups like Engineering Truth Facebook group. You need to come on and get into the 1% Engineer Facebook group. Go ahead and scroll up into the chat, and you can friend me on Facebook.
Instagram's DM section.
That's right.
You can use that.
DM people on Instagram after building relationships with them. I would
Facebook
say,
as well.
Yep. I would say what you need to do first is you need to friend them, follow them on Instagram, like their photos, comment on their photos, and they're gonna comment on their stories, on their Instagram stories, and then send them that DM DM like 2-3 weeks later, and you'll get a response, and you can build relationships with people just from Instagram. Great mention.
Send an email as well. You can find one.
I send emails all the time, and I'm really happy, Hamza, that you mentioned that you sent that cold email to a professor and that he responded to you right away. And it seemed like you were able to go in and, like, a grad student showed you some stuff or something. Still not.
Yeah, grad student showed me some stuff. The professor came in and out because he had to be at a presentation.
Right.
But he was there, so yeah.
So have you been emailing with that grad student and maintaining that relationship? And when was it that you did that tour?
I guess just to kind of see. Yeah, that's a big error. I have him on my LinkedIn. I haven't been emailing back, which is something I should probably do.
Definitely do it. Keep it going, because you just never know how that can go. You should just keep that Rolodex going, because the more that you wait and the more time that elapses before you send that email, you know, it's once you get that first email in, you can maybe wait 2-3 months. I would encourage it to be like monthly or every 6 weeks. But the longer you wait, the bigger the gap goes from that first connection, like when you met, when that tour happened, and you're less and less significant with every month that goes by. So send that email.
That was the other thing I wanted to ask. How do you maintain? Do you just send an email, say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? Yada yada yada, or is there more to it than that?
No, that's exactly right. Talk about them. Ask them about them. That's like the key thing of this book, is talk about them. Don't talk about you. Talk about them. You know, thank them again. Be very grateful that they took the time. So I'll lead with that. Hope the launch of your fall semester has been really good, because I'm assuming that they're an existing grad student now. Hope that your research is going well and everything at all, and just have the email be about nothing but your gratitude and your interest in what they're up to now. And if anything, offer things like, if there's any way that I can help you out and be a volunteer for any of your research, or if you have any studies, like a lot of times they need to do surveys, or they need volunteers for people to come in for certain events and things like that. But offer help, you know, be grateful, thank them, be interested in them, ask about them, what's going on there, and then offer for help. No ask, right? Don't ask anything for like a year, because by the time you're ready for an internship, which like in the spring, or you're ready for a full-time research situation, it's not for like a year anyway. It's not a full year, 8 months. So you don't really have to ask anything, but don't tarnish the relationship with an early ask. It's the jab, 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 right hook.
I have that book on me, actually, on my PDF.
This is the essence of this book, guys. Jab, 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 right hook. This is a social media entrepreneur. He's probably the biggest social media entrepreneur out there, Gary Vaynerchuk. And what jab, 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 right hook is all about is help, 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 give, 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 and then ask. And so if you're adding value to their life, building that relationship, you know, making them feel good, being grateful, they actually really like to read emails like that. And people like to talk about their research. People like to inspire other young engineers out there in the world with talking about what they're up to. So people generally like to talk about their stuff. And that also those jabs are, hey, can I help with your research? Can I help at any events that you're doing? Because these research groups, they have to participate in science fairs and hackathons and things like that. So sometimes they might need somebody who can support them at a booth, or maybe doing surveys. You know, I participated in a bunch of psychological research because I knew a professor when I was in high school. I took a psychology class, and we would help all their grad students with surveys and things like that. We would like watch a short film, and then they'd give us a questionnaire about how we felt, right? So always keep in touch, be grateful, ask about them, you know, ask them what's going on, and then offer to volunteer. Go ahead, Hamza.
Hey Jake, by the way, I have that book in my drive.
Yeah, that's good. I saw that you also put the thank you economy, which is over there. I can't reach it, but I have all 4 of Gary Vaynerchuk's books. Maybe no.
Even the new one, Ask Gary V?
No, that's his 5th one. So it was Crush It.
Yeah, I have that right now with me.
What was his 3rd one? Crush It, Thank You Economy, Jab, 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 Right Hook. I can't remember the 4th one. But, that's the 5th one is Ask Gary V. Or maybe that's the 5th one, and then, anyway, so whatever. But, this is great. I need to catch up with the comments here. I think we got to the Ukrainian question. Thanks for that. Adriel, thanks for sticking around. And Absurdus, thank you. You're welcome. Very welcome. Thank you for the question. Adriel, I'm not sure what you mean by saying I have other things to compensate for, like you started a small business. Meaning, I guess you're meaning that you you're spending a lot of time in that. Adriel, I'd love to hear what your small business is focused on, how you got involved with that, what you're doing, because you can use a small business as a way to stand out, as a way to build relationships. You know, for example, 1% Engineer isn't a business yet. There's going to be a time where I'm going to have to monetize this in order to help more engineers of the world, but you can use your business, if it is attached to engineering at all, to network. For example, you can use that for content and to be interviewing people in your space. So I don't know if you're doing something that's totally unrelated to engineering, let me know, but you can kind of leverage a brand or a community or a blog or a content situation to network and to create content, create value, and share that person's story by interviewing them or whatever. Des, no worries. Hard questions are the best types of questions. Corey, I'm going to just elaborate some things that Corey is saying in the chat. Because one thing that's interesting is, though woodworking in high school. So Adriel, good. If you have a woodworking business, you know, that is close enough to engineering that you can probably interview construction engineers or architectural engineers or design engineers or architects, because if you're doing woodworking, depending on the type of woodworking that you're doing and what you like, you probably have this nice bridge between the creative space, a creative mind, and a left-brained engineering mind. We can use Corey for an example. Corey is a mechanical engineer working in the power sector, very, very bright engineer, but also has this massive artistic side. I see the models and the figures that you make, Corey. That stuff is super awesome. So I think you guys should connect and talk about this. Adriel, if you haven't yet, make sure that you friend me on Facebook so that I can get you in the 1% Engineer group, and I can introduce you to all the other engineers, because this bridge, this is why they call it STEAM now. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. There is actually more of a bridge than we used to think, but you can use the woodworking business. If you're not putting out content about your business, you should be. You should be telling that story on Instagram. You should be blogging. If you can get on video, get on the camera and talk about your woodworking stuff, but you can use that business to leverage, you can leverage that business to interview professionals, again, design architects, people in like fancy carpentry. Good, you friended me, awesome. Mechatronics engineering. So I'm curious if you are absolutely in love with the woodworking business and how you're potentially connecting the two, your interests. Like why did you choose mechatronics engineering if you're very, very interested in woodworking enough to make this into a business? But I'm curious to hear about that story. So let me know in the chat. I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. But I want to get back to what Corey was mentioning. He talks about how international online collab forums exist. Absolutely right. I have met so many engineers just from all this online stuff. Hamza and I have never even met in person. I think we will one day, because I actually Raleigh is a pretty good epicenter for 1% Engineer. We got a lot of people in California, a lot of people in Texas, and a lot of people in Raleigh. I need to get you connected to Nehemiah Mabry from STEM Media, because he is a titan down there in the engineering space. Unfortunately for you, he's a structural engineer, but I guarantee you he knows other biomedical engineers and people in medical devices and 3D printing and all that. But you know, he's got 12,000 people on his Instagram and knows everybody down there. But Corey, thanks for those mentions about that. He says eng-tips.com was one of the first places he found in 2009. LinkedIn groups exist. Medtronics is the top medical device company. Devices are extremely difficult to get from the lab into the market, so they need top surgical centers to shorten the dev time. The Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis is one. I know all about the Mayo Clinic. I know some people who are toxicologists there, so awesome. And Des seems very thankful for your mentions of that stuff, so thank you for that, Des. Great. The Ukrainian guy, I don't know how to read Ukrainian, so I don't know if your name is Bron, or I don't know how to say that, but I should almost like translate that in Google. He says, I like investigations very much, but when I ask questions regarding research and master these, it says you're an engineer, you have to find all the answers by yourself. So I don't know, tell me what types of questions you're trying to figure out. You know, because you asked about building relationships with other students, and then you're talking about people telling you that you need to figure out everything yourself. You're an engineer, so maybe if you're trying to ask certain people certain types of questions, maybe let me know what these questions are, and I can kind of connect you, steer you in the right direction. with that stuff. And that's really, I'm really caught up here on the questions, guys. So there's 8 of you watching right now. Or Hamza, if you have anything to add to this dialogue, throw some questions in the chat, guys. Or Hamza, feel free. But you know, as soon as the questions run out here, it's kind of an indication that we'll chop the stream. But let me know, guys. Fill out the chat. Hamza, what else can you kind of mention to where the conversation's been going so far?
I can't really think of much, honestly.
Right. Go ahead.
I was just thinking that you know, I'm kind of worried about my generation and the future of how things are going, because I think one thing's lagging in the school system is financial education, and I think it's going to be necessary in the future, especially considering you got all the student loan debt. You know, doctors aren't balling out of college. Engineers probably are not balling out of college because they got this debt on them. And I think people need to be more entrepreneurial minded these days.
100%. I totally agree with that. And if you could maybe talk about an example of a way that you're considering being a little bit more entrepreneurial or going in that direction, what would you suggest to the young engineers out there?
I mean, business, I would say real estate is a pretty secure place to keep your money if you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I can think of.
For sure, good ads.
The stock market's kind of risky because now they have all this AI and computer trading mechanisms.
Yeah.
And you know, they can cause a flash crash just like that, and you just lost everything.
That's right. Yeah, I used to trade stocks a little bit. You guys definitely shouldn't be involved with that. It's I didn't lose a bunch of money or anything, but after doing it for a little while, I realized that unless you have at minimum a $100,000 trading portfolio, you just don't have enough skin in the game to actually do anything. And plus, like Hamza mentioned, there's all of these things and financial tools and situations out there that give advantages to big trading institutions. And if you're just a little guy out there, like, you can't compete with these hedge funds. You can't compete with these big banks because of the information and the insider trading that goes on. So, you know, I would just not even think about that. Don't even consider that.
The thing with real estate is that you can actually control the asset. You can rent it out. You can increase the value. You can use depreciation, the tax law against it. In fact, there's so many loopholes, like the 1031 exchange, where if you have a small house and the market goes up, you can sell that house and invest all the money and not pay any capital gains tax into a bigger project for a down payment.
That's nuts. I'm glad you mentioned that.
There's so many loopholes.
Yeah. So thanks again for coming by, Corey. I know you just left, or you're about to leave, but really appreciate you being in the chat. Really appreciate your investment into 1% Nation. Thanks for coming by, being a big supporter of all these live chats. But seems like the comments are kind of winding down. So for the 6-7 of you who are still in here, thanks so much for being a part of this live stream. I think I'm going to be doing this every weekend. I just found out today that my civil engineering crew from University of Delaware is doing Saturday tailgates. So I would have ideally been doing this on Saturday mornings or early Saturday afternoons, just like what we did here. But I might be at some of these football games in order to... Oh, I think I just lost Hamza. In order to... Oh, snap. Let me fix this stream real quick before I say bye to you guys. Uh-oh. I'm going to kill Skype. I think you guys can still hear me, but you probably can't see me. Stick with me there, guys. Gonna lose everybody. Anyway, so this stream video is dead. Cannot figure out how to get the webcam right back. I think my streaming service thinks that YouTube has taken over. So sorry about that, guys. But let me just try one more second here so you can see me. But oh, here we go. Recovered the stream here. Gonna just whip this up real quick here. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you being a part of the stream. As you can see, this is going for 2 hours. We had lots of chat engagement, lots of people who came by, so I highly thank all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Really appreciate it, and thanks again for being a part of 1% Nation. I release videos 3 or 4 times a week now about engineering student success. So I'm going to be doing live streams every weekend, Saturday or Sunday. I will figure out exactly how I can continue that in terms of a schedule, but if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss out on any of these awesome videos that I've been making for 1% Nation. And thanks again for watching the 1% Engineer Show, guys. Comment below and I can send you the 1% Engineer Kit, which is now 7 ebooks and 4 resume templates. And friend me on Facebook. I'm Jake Vore, and I can get you in the 1% Engineer Facebook group. So as always, thanks for watching the 1% Engineer Show, guys, and stay hungry on your quest to become a 1% engineer.